So it's the life and times of Peter Chan. I tell you why I use that phrase. It's because yesterday, lo and behold, I pulled a muscle lifting heavy trees. So my left arm has gone completely limp. I can't even put my Hawaiian shirt on easily. It took me about 10 minutes just to slip my left arm into the shirt. So that left arm has got limp. I don't know what's happening to it, but not to worry. Life goes on. I keep working. So my right hand at least is still working. And before things get out of hand, as it were, I am going to show you what I do with some of these Trident Maples. These Trident Maples are being let to grow quite wild because I'm creating ramification. So I can't continue to let it grow long like this. So I'm literally pruning the pad in this fashion. And during the next season, I will keep doing this so that none of these branches get out of hand and the ramification will become nice. So that is one pad done. So this is another branch. Now this is a completely new branch because this branch died. These burrs, as it were, need to be cut off, and this one, rather than wire it, I'm going to tie guy wire like that, tie it to the root and let the branch grow this way. This, being a new branch, needs to thicken, so I probably won't prune it that hard. I will keep some growth because the more growth you get, the thicker this will grow. So rather than do the same as I've done here, I'm going to leave the twigs a bit longer so that it feeds back more energy into this branch. Same with this. This is going to be wired down like that to make another branch. But because the head here is more or less complete, this I will have to be quite ruthless and just trim it back to shape because the ramification on this is very good already. So this is what I do. This is the ideal time to do it, not when it's dormant without leaves, but once the leaves start coming, that is the time to do it. Don't ask me why, it's just from experience I find that this works. Now this branch also is virtually complete, so I'm just going to increase the ramification just by pruning it hard back like this. Hard back. By the way, the Trident Maples, I'm sure Tridents are grown all over the world. I've seen them in America a lot, in South Africa. I dare say in America, California, they would grow a lot of Trident Maple. It's not a tree that can be grown in the tropics, definitely not. Although it can stand warmer temperatures, and of course in Japan they grow rampant. But it's one of those trees that you either hate it or you love it. And the tridents are normally grown because they have these massive trunks. Having said that, it doesn't mean that all tridents have to have massive trunks. There are tridents with very slender trunks, and they also create a lovely image as well. I haven't said which is the front and which is the back. Let this grow. This is going to be pulled down. So this tree, because again, I have trained it since 1993. 30 years is not a lot to show. But it came as a stump this high, and from here to there has been grown in the last 30 years. Also, these branches have been grown in the last 30 years. So it may have lost its way, I'm not sure. But it's got several fronts, but the powerful roots here are quite uniform on every side. If you walk around, you can see every side is nice. So this could be a front with this leaning, that could be a front. So there's so many possible fronts, many possible fronts. That's why, of course, it's in a round pot. So that is the pruning I would do to that one. Okay, let's switch the camera off. I'm going to walk you around to some other tridents. Now this trident maple, again one of the trees that I imported from Japan in 1993, and again they were just logs, and all the branches, every single branch has been developed here. And Bari also has been developed here. So from here to there, last 30 years, I had several attempts, and sometimes the tops die. So again, because the ramification on these branches is almost complete, I will just continue to prune it back tight like this. Not to let it grow upwards, and that's all I will do. I'm not going to spend all the time showing you, but that is what I'm doing, because these pads are virtually complete. These are virtually complete. But you don't have to be very clever to see that already this tree has some faults. I'm often asked, do you have disasters with your trees? And the simple answer is that yes, we do have disasters. The world is not perfect. The world is never perfect. You can never get everything to what you want to happen. So this was a nice long branch which I was going to pull down, but for some reason this part from there to there has died, but this part is alive. So I'm a bit concerned. So this has to come off. So, and that is growing. I don't know why this side is suffering so much. It's just one of those things, but the base is beautiful. And even if it did die, you can open up the trunk. Although this is meant to be the front, this branch is growing in a rather awkward place. I may cut it off completely and carve a hole in there. But no matter, let's make the branch short. So, because I've got a bad arm, I can't use my two hands. I'll get Josh with a lopper to lop that. So, if you just use the lopper or silky, whatever you think, what do you think is easier?
Silky.
Okay, silky, we're going to cut that off. See, the bottom part is alive. The silky saws are beautiful saws. It's a professional tool which even tree surgeons like Josh use. And I was just talking to Josh that I bought a reciprocating electric saw, battery saw. If you can kindly bring that, we'll show you. I did use it the other day, but I don't find it very effective. I was just trying to experiment with different tools, and I was rather disappointed with that one. This tree, by the way, I did use a chainsaw to cut up the back. I wanted a hollow, so that cutting was done with a chainsaw to create the hollowing effect there. Now this saw, I used it the other day. It nearly burnt the blade out, but it took ages just to cut a piece of wood off, not more than 1.5 inches in diameter. So that was a bad buy. That was a bad buy. So I don't think that's a very effective tool. Okay, now we will walk to some other tridents. This is going to be like a masterclass on tridents. This is my pride and joy, which is that great big tree. And if I can just take the rubbish out of the way. Until someone stands next to the tree, you don't realize how big the trunk is. See the size of that nibari at the bottom. It is every bit, I would say, more than 2 feet, 60 centimeters. 60 centimeter wide at the base. And this again is a tree that was imported in 1993. In fact, the front is this side. The front is this side. But I can't lift it, there's no one here to lift them. But that's the back side that you're looking at. The front is this side. And again, it has been in this greenhouse because it didn't seem to grow so well last year. If you can go around, yeah, there's in-arching. You see some of the branches that we tried experimented in-arch grafting. But the in-arch, yeah, from there I in-arched this and produced this branch, this thick branch. So some very interesting experiments was done with this tree. This tree could have used this as a front because the whole tree is leaning this way. But the other side is also very pretty. So it is really a two-sided tree. So this is one of my major tridents. So it got badly burnt by the sun last year, but I hope it will recover. It may spend the rest of this year in this greenhouse because sometimes you've got to observe how trees behave in certain conditions. And a year in the greenhouse may help this tree. Before I go to the field, I will show you some other tridents. So let us walk this way. Okay, come, we walk this way. We must have about 20 or 30 very large tridents. And as I say, we sell some of them, but most of them are kept as experimental trees. So, in another area, in my single polytunnel, we have this big monster tree. This tree is the tree that I think I've told you the history of it. Again in I think 1992 or 93, my wife and I were in Japan, and this is a tree that we looked at for many years. I think we first saw it perhaps in 1990, and it was at Terikuchi Kato. You know the famous Saburo Kato, who was the president of the NBA for many years. He had two brothers, and the third brother, Terikuchi Kato, was the president of the Japan Suiseki Association, and he had a nursery in Western Saitama, and we used to buy quite a few trees from him. And this was a tree I saw for many years. I saw it for 3 years running, maybe in 1990, 91, 92. And every time I asked him, is it for sale? He used to play hard to get. He said, oh no, it's not for sale. It's such a beautiful tree. I can't sell it. I will show you the pot that it came in originally. I'll show you photographs of the tree. It was in a very shallow pot. The pot was barely 1.5 or 2 inches deep. So a very shallow pot and this massive tree. But the tree was sulking a bit because the pot was too shallow. And I did show it at Chelsea many a time. And over the last couple of years, it suffered a bit because if you get it caught by the frost in the early spring, the rest of the leaves don't seem to grow well. So last year, as an experiment, I kept it in this polytunnel throughout the year, and look at it now. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. So in the last 2 weeks, you see the new growth here? It's made like more than 2 inches of new growth. There's about 2 or 3 pairs of new leaves. So what I'm going to do, now that there's growth, I'm going to go right through the entire tree and take the tips out. I'm not going to spend half an hour just showing you how I take every single twig off, but this is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to produce more ramification. It's already quite a strong tree, so I know I can do this. Sometimes if a tree is weak, you've got to let the tree just produce shoots unchecked, because if you try to prune it too hard, you make the tree weak. So this is where you've got to understand your plants. And different trees behave in different ways. And from time to time, it does lose branches. Last year it lost a branch here, so I'll cut that off. But the spacing of the different levels is quite credible still. And if you come closer here, it's producing flowers and seeds. If you look carefully, this is almost like a frog leaf trident. It's not the conventional type of trident. It's what we call a frog leaf trident. So these, look at that 4-inch long shoot. I've got to cut that back to there. So this is what I'm going to do with the entire tree. So this is another beautiful tree that I have, trident. So
a seed from last year.
Oh yes, seed from last year. I must sow that. Okay, we'll now go to the field. We can switch the camera. Now I've got here in front of me 4 of these large tridents. There are more, there are another 6 over there. So again, because the ramification is quite good, I will again go around and just do chip all the ends to get the pads looking nice. Some of these long shoots, you see how long these shoots are? I don't need them. Again, Josh was wanting to make cuttings from this. These would be like hardwood cuttings, but if you use a very strong hormone rooting powder, they will root quite well. So it is possible. You must be wondering why I didn't cut them in the summer of last year. I prefer to do this job in the spring. When I see signs of growth, I then do it. If I do it in the late autumn, then the chances are that you can get dieback. The frost may hit the tree and go further into the wood. So for that reason, I like to do like spring pruning like this. Again, there are no right and wrong ways, just this is the way that I've tried for years and this works for me. I'm a great believer in doing experiments. Much of the work that we do here, I get great pleasure from because I constantly do experiments to see what works and what doesn't work. So if it works, it's something that I've discovered. And also if it doesn't work, I've discovered something that I won't do that again. So that's the value of having all these trees, which we grow as experimental trees. See, there are some branches that get lost, see, where I cut them off, it's forming burrs. In fact, some people like the burrs, some people don't. But this becomes a very saleable tree. The nearby again is very good. So later in the month I may still, see what a lot of weeds here, put it in a mica pot. Again, same thing here because the ramification is quite nice. All I have to do now is just go around and keep doing these. All these long shoots which I let go in the summer, I now do this to get the pads. So I'm going to do all of them. Like that big tree, if I want the branch long, because the branches on that tree are short and close to the tree, that's all I got. We can extend these branches and wire them and make it a wide tree. So if I didn't want to make it a short branch tree, I can wire these out to make them long branches. So all these long branches are going to be kept for that. So that's another experiment in the offing. So we will now go to the field and see some of those mega tridents that we have. About 8 mega tridents here. Again, these are all from that batch from 1993. And look at the size of this. Again, 18 inches to 2 feet nebari across. And I have developed most of the branches here. But over a period of time, some of the branches die. So this branch is dead up to about here, I would say. Nothing growing, so I have to cut that off, shorten it. This is dead there. So not all the branches live forever. So apart from just doing that, I think I've got to regrow some of these branches. So you see the problem here. These were, I think, in-arched branches. And then feed it like hell, because I put it in this big pot, and because we put it in this big pot, look at the growth I've got in some of this. These are almost like rogue shoots. I left them to grow. I think I've mentioned this feature before. I sometimes leave things to grow because these long branches here, look at that, about 5 foot long branch from last year, from here to there, 5 foot long. If you have branches like this, you can use it for in-arching. So if you're short of a branch, you can either in-arch it to another tree or in-arch it to the same tree and then get a new branch where you want it. So that is the purpose of growing these long branches. But here I can see that this is clearly a situation where I need the pad to be formed. So I will cut it back to the pad shape. The end of the shoot would have died, and why it has died maybe because it's very far to send all that liquid and nutrient up to the end of the tree, so that's why they die. So that is what I'm doing, and then let these new little side shoots grow. So putting it in a big pot like this or in the ground is like giving these trees a holiday, a respite from being in a very tight small pot, and from being put in this big pot. It gives it vigor and you get more growth. So this is the Trident area. Trident has such vigorous trees. Let me show you another tree here if I can pull it out. If you take that out and look at the bulge going underneath the pot. Can you see all the roots underneath the pot? They are so vigorous, absolutely vigorous. So we'll have to cut that pot and then make a new tree out of these. So these are trees that we grow in our field from young saplings. So these would have been grown in the nursery for like 25 years from something as thin as a matchstick. So that is that tree. Now let me look at I haven't decided what to do with this long branch. I need a new leader over here. Look at this. This long branch, if I wanted to, I can do in arching like that. Staple it with a staple, and then that will form a new branch. So these long branches are usable for that reason. See, another one like that, I can also produce a new branch like that just by stapling it. So this is what I do with these. So these long branches have a role to fulfill. Now, this is a very interesting tree. And again, from here to there, this is 30 years growth, from this point to that point. And because the tree is leaning slightly this way, I think the front is somewhere there. But again, you look at this rogue shoot. This is all 1 year's growth. And if you're not careful, it'll run away and it will dominate the rest of the tree. So I've got to cut it back there, cut these back, and let the tree start forming the pad. So the front, because the tree is leaning this way, I think this would make a very nice front. From this side, I think this side would be a bit difficult, but I think this side is not too bad. See, like here is not too bad, even from here. So you got branches either side, but again, this branch here has died from here to there, and this one has died from here to there. So there are all sorts of problems there. So this top one also is dead up to about here. Yeah. So you do get branches dying from time to time, which is most annoying. Like this one also is dead. Take it back to the trunk. And then we have got to wait for it to grow again. Again, looking at all these dead branches, there are lots of dead branches. That's a dead branch there. So quite a few dead branches. Now this is a dead branch too. Yeah, from there. That's a dead branch. Not to worry, they will grow again. So back to the trunk. Sometimes when you have very thick branches, this is what we have to do. If the branches are too thick, we have to start again. So they're quite here. They're back there also. Lots of thick dead ones. Yeah, cut it there to the live pot. And this one also, there's a live up to this branch in there. That'll do. So by feeding copiously with heavy fertilizer, we will get new branches to grow. So not to worry about that one. So if you hold the camera again, I will just show you. Yeah, that's cut it up. And while you got the lopper, you might as well show you, shorten this up to here, here, and shorten all these with the loppers. Even the top. cut them all hard back. You start again. But the base of the tree is what counts. And this is how we produce the taper. Okay, now let's look at some more trees. Let me complete this one in the front. Yeah. Okay, let's return to this tree. This tree again, because the apex is quite strong, and all these new shoots about 30 centimeter or 45 centimeter long were produced last summer. I can now cut it off, so you see how strong they are. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos, people say, oh, how to grow thick trunks and this and that. You may try and kid people by saying this and saying that, but at the end of the day, there's nothing like time. Time is what is needed to make big trunks. Just grow it in the open ground or grow it in big pots like this. That is the only way to get a thick trunk. There is no magic formula, no silver bullet which will provide a shortcut. You can only take a shortcut to a certain extent. The rest of the journey is just pure hard work, pure and simple hard graft. There is no substitute for that. As they say in life, if it was that simple, everyone would be doing it. So it's not that simple. Okay, so I've cut this hard back. Now that we decided on the front, but again, with most of these trees, if in doubt, just use a round pot. So this I could make into a new branch, so I'm not cutting this too hard back because I lost the branch there. I can grow a new branch here. And this is going to be the front. Beautiful Nibari. All these trees have got beautiful, beautiful Nibari. Now, there is one tree here, in fact not more than one, there's several trees here. Look at this tree. And if you home in on the Nibari, it is lovely from every possible side. And this is what happens when you just take your time to develop Nibari. As we say, there's no substitute for time. And this has all been achieved by letting it grow slowly, and it makes this beautiful base. So all these long shoots which are going to be part of the ramification and the pad structure, I'm now going to prune back to the pad, and I know that if I feed it heavily I will get lots of growth. So some years I'll just leave things to grow unchecked, and then the next year I prune back. This tree probably I've added too much. You see the taper, you know, you cut there, cut there, cut there, cut there, cut there. Maybe this gap and that gap was too high. I may have to reduce it to get a better taper or stop the tree there. So making taper is quite a tedious process. And taking the right decision as to where to cut is also important.
Airline this, Peter.
Yeah, we could air it and make a nice short tree from the top. Perhaps we'll do that. Last year Joshua was very successful in air layering Trident, and I've tried air layering Trident on quite a few occasions, but I didn't have much success. But Josh was able to air lay, I think 2 or 3, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I think those trees were like 6 foot tall and had trunks of about 3-inch diameter, so they were very successful. So we will follow the progress of this. Now, because this is in quite good health, I'm going to transfer this to a mica pot so that it becomes more showable and more saleable. Now, just to show you the variation in Trident, look at this Trident. This one must be a slightly different clone. This one has got reddish leaves, and it's still a Trident. I usually like to let these hollows develop. This is the sort of tree I like, this size. This one again, I was going this taller, but the leader doesn't need to be that tall. I have to terminate it somewhere here. but I will continue to letting it grow. But because this one hasn't got any dead branches at all, this one already in a mica pot, I may take it back to the nursery to display. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while. That's another one. If the branches are okay, I will just go and develop the pads there. The odd long shoot here, I don't see the need. They're grown, as I say, for in-arching if I wanted to produce a new branch. And if you don't mind, you can find a tree with similar type of leaf and in-arch it to another tree. You don't have to in-arch the same tree with the same branch. You can in-arch other trees. Now these are, I'm digressing a little bit. These are European hornbeams. And although I like big trees, this is much too big. If you come on this side, you can see that we can air layer quite a few of these top branches and get a very credible bonsai from it. That's what we normally do with our hornbeams. So see, this and this has grown. It's about 3 feet, it's last year's growth. So I could make a air layering from here to there and get a very nice tree. Again, this to there, get another nice tree, and keep the tree more manageable in height and size. So I hope I've shown you how we grow these large trees. Anything which is vigorous like the hornbeams and tridents, very satisfying because they produce branches so easily and they develop trunks so easily. So it is enormous fun. So those of you who don't have the facilities to grow large trees, you must be envying my position where I have all these trees to choose from. But if you can find the space and time to do it, I'm sure you will get a lot of enjoyment from it. So this is just late Saturday afternoon's work, and I will continuing doing it so you can see the progress of these tridents. I didn't show you there was a troublesome tree there, did we, Josh? Okay. There's one tree there that, let me show you this. I was speaking earlier on that not every tree is successful. I was asked this just this morning by someone who came to the nursery. He said, do you often have failures, or do you sometimes have failures? And the answer is yes. Everyone has failures. If you try and say that you've never had a failure in life, I think that would be taking it a bit too far. Everyone has failures in life. Now this is a case where I have had a failure here. Now this Trident maple was doing extremely well, and what happened, I did a very severe cut over there. Maybe I cut it so severely, it continued to grow, but last year I find that the whole of this top died. So this top is not growing now. But the bottom is growing, that branch is growing, that branch is growing. This branch is dead up to there. So I've got a tree that is, I would say, only not even a third of it is alive. A bit of it is alive, but I've got this long branch here. I don't think I could do a fake tanuki there. It won't work. But because I've got a strong branch, I can make a new leader. But this can be left to rot naturally, and I can get a hollow trunk tree out of it. So a hollow trunk tree would have a lot of character. So let us turn the tree around and she'll show you. Already it's got some hollows here. So that could be developed as a feature. So we cut the top off and make this a short stumpy tree with a hollow trunk. That might work. And that would become the new leader. So all is not lost. So even if you have failures, you can turn the failure into something that you can manage and consider a plus point, a bonus. Here I will show these are all little trident seedlings that we've been growing. This is probably 10-year seedling because I haven't put it in the ground, it's always in a pot. So there you are. Talking of successes and failures, I'm digressing a bit, but these yews we dug up last year. They started to grow, but I think we were too severe with the roots, so I don't think this will survive. That one survived, it's only a small tree, but all these big trees with 30 centimeter, 40 centimeter diameter trunks, none of them survived. So I'm a bit cross with whoever did the digging. Took too much fruit off. So again, some are successful, some are failures. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode.